Welcome everybody to another episode of Mindset You. Jason Reno here with my other host. Next to me is baby boy Francis. Mo, we miss you. We know you're a busy man though. Today's episode is pretty much about me giving you an update on stuff in my life. There's no point in explaining why it is now because you gotta listen. But just know it's some good news, and I kind of go back on certain things I said before. I still hate cyclists, so fuck them. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Find us on YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, VidaProject.com. Enjoy. So we haven't seen each other in a while, but we have spoken not too long ago, and I think it's time for an update. You guys all know that. I mean, all 9 of you know how I feel about children. Figured that would make you laugh. You guys know how I feel about my idea of being a dad and how I've been pretty stuck in my way. So I don't want to be a dad. It's not because I don't think I'd be a good dad. I think I'd be an amazing dad. I think, Ashley would be an amazing mom. And on our last trip in Florida, I don't know whether it was the edibles or the alcohol or just the Disney air. We decided that not only are we gonna eventually move to Florida because we hate the cold, but when we do move, we're gonna adopt a kid. So yeah, we're gonna adopt a little blue-eyed white kid and only teach him Spanish.
How'd you guys come to that conclusion?
The white kid or the
No, adopting, because you've been like, no.
yeah.
I know. So hold on. I just want to my understanding of the past. Like you've always had like this like. For you, what I've heard from you is like you always had like this like fear of the responsibility of a kid and bringing them into this world and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
I know that's kind of what I've heard from you, and then from Ashley, your wife, what I've heard is basically a lot of trauma from like working in hospitals and seeing all this stuff. So like a lot of like I don't want to. Is that accurate?
So that's pretty accurate. So from Ashley's side, it was more she worked in labor and delivery for a really long time, and she knows all the trials and tribulations that it comes with giving birth, and not only giving birth, but being over a certain age. And then then you look at the mortality rates of Black women when giving birth and stuff like that. That shit's really fucking scary. So we always talked like if we were to ever do it, we would adopt. Um, And granted, if she got pregnant, but I still not for like a little TMI. I don't shoot up the club. Terrifies me.
Mm-hmm. Just
so
to support you on that. The only two times that I have done that, I have two kids.
Yeah, you're my cautionary tale. So yeah, it just came to the point. I don't know. There was just something about being with her and it just being like the two of us, and then just thinking like we are so fortunate. And it goes back to this conversation that we have all the time. We're so fortunate to have the village that we have, whether it's friends, family, blah 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 blah. It would be kind of selfish of us to not help bring somebody else into that. And I think it's time to stop being scared and to stop using that as an excuse of, oh, I don't want the responsibility. And it's, I think I would be a fun dad, and I think she would be an amazing mom, and I think it would be really cool to raise a child together. And I think adoption for us is the best way to go.
Has this been something you guys been talking about, or like did it just come up?
Like we always talked about it, but never like it was kind of like if we were to ever do it, it would be that way. Mm-hmm. And then when we had the talk in Disney while we were walking around, I was like, I'm serious. Like if you want to do this, we should do this.
Okay, so it was like
And
a conversation you guys been having and came up, or was
yeah.
it
It
like
was.
how,
It's a
how, how did it come up? Like I want to I want to know the spill the tea.
So it's something that like we've always talked about it, but never like in like full detail. Um, and I don't know. I think it's also like we went down to go visit one of my good friends, Kevin, and his wife, and his wife is expecting a kid, and it was just one of those things. Like, what are we waiting for? Like,
Hmm.
what's truly holding us back? It's you know, we have the family, we have the village. We're both more than capable to 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 show this new baby love and to help raise them to become the best person that they can be. And I don't know what I can't really pinpoint what it was, but I kind of just like spent the day just looking at Ash. Like while we were walking around and she was just smiling and having such a good time. I was like, wow, I really fucking love this girl. Like, wow, like I love her so fucking much. And I know that like us having our own kid isn't really in the plans for us. And I mean, there's always the option. We say this shit now, and like maybe one day she will get pregnant. Who knows? But realistically, and logically, this is our best route, and I don't know, man. I don't know what it is, what really sparked that switch.
Hmm.
But there's something about just like seeing her and just being like, I wanna raise a child with her.
Hmm.
I don't know. I really can't pinpoint, like, what it actually was other than her just smiling and being herself, and I think it's just, like, us I think with 2024, which this sounds so cliche, it's like I've tried to make it a point to be a lot more selfless, and I think part of that is letting go of that selfishness of, "Oh, I don't want that responsibility," and it's like, why not? Why not why not s why not do this?
Hmm.
Why not? Why not? What's the worst that could happen? They grow up to be a serial killer? Hopefully, they're good. This
So
might be used against me when adopting a child. Just kidding, guys. I'm totally kidding.
um so you know, you mentioned it before, so share with the audience like how did that moment come up, like
Oh,
you brought.
so yeah, so we were just walking around Hollywood Studios. I was double fisting Blue Milk. If you guys don't know what Blue Milk is,
I don't know what it
it's a
is.
so Blue Milk is this rum drink. It's like rice milk and like a rum and other shit. It's my favorite thing at the Hollywood Studios, and I double fist them, and then I drink Ashley's that she doesn't finish. But there was just something so special about that night because it was just the two of us. There was nothing. We had no plans. Like we were like, we're not going on any rides. We're just gonna walk around. We're just gonna walk around and people watch. And I think it was like after like the eighth kid that I saw that they were smiling and you could see how happy that the parents were with them, was like finally seeing a family not be in fucking utter shock that they're at Disney and hating their life. And I was like, why don't we have a kid? Why
Hmm.
aren't we raising this little fucker? Like, um, and yeah, that's pretty much, I don't know how else to describe it. Like I look at her and like, and now I can't get out of my head. I'm like, no, that's she's gonna be a mom. Like that's
Hmm.
you know, that's gonna be the mother of my kid.
Yeah.
And
So
she brought us
you're in this magical like moment
yeah,
experience. Everything around you is perfectly aligned, and you're looking at her. You're like, I love her so much. I want to,
yeah,
I want to do more with her.
yeah.
And then you told her, and she was
Yeah,
like,
so I kind of just was like, I got a crazy idea right now, and I don't know if it's the alcohol or the edible or everything, just this whole moment right now. I
mm,
was like, but I would really, really, really be into having a kid with you if you were into that. And when I say I have a kid with you, she knew I meant adoption.
mhm,
And she just stopped and looked at me, and I could see her eyes get a little water. And she's like, I really want that.
mhm.
And I was like, can we go on a ride now? And we went on Slinky Dog. It was awesome. But there was, I don't know, like I don't know how to explain it. It's just a switch that went off, and just looking at her, and now I can't unsee it. I can't unlook at her and not be like, nah, she's gonna be a great mother.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to describe it. It was a lot of fun telling my parents. My mom was like, "I knew it, I knew it." They were more surprised, and they weren't even surprised about like us wanting to move to Florida. They're like, "God, we figured all of this. We were just waiting for you to say it."
Waiting for you to figure it out.
Yeah. I think that was like a few family members. They were like, yeah, we didn't see this going any other way. Yeah, and there's a long road going down. Like, the adoption process is wild. I know it's a tedious process, but I'm excited to go on that journey.
Yeah.
When it's time. And
if I could share, like, from seeing you and having like the podcast, right? We get to have, we're forced to into these conversations consistently, right? Which I've heard you share that a lot. I've seen like the slow erosion of this stance, over time. Like no, I don't want kids, and then it came to, I mean, I don't want kids. What I'm saying is impossible, but I don't want kids. And then it went into like, like, I don't know about, I think I'd be a good dad, but I don't know if I'm ready to be a dad. Like, so it's like this slow erosion progression that I was like, he's gonna get there.
yeah. And I just thought about it more, and I was like, and I think it was like romanticizing the idea of like, giving my parents grandkids, having a new child in the family to get to experience the village and the love that we receive from our friends. I think it's just really been like just really embracing like the gratitude of being in the situation that we're in when it comes to the people in our lives. And I think if we didn't have that, I don't think I don't think that erosion would have, my stance would, I think I would have been pretty set in my ways. But it's just been like, man, we're so blessed to receive the love that we do. And we want to share that. And I think that's the best way for us to do it.
I love that.
Yeah, man. It's wild. It's just more calm. I feel like, and just like having it in my head of being like, no, you got to be patient, dude. Like you can't, even here's a good story. Even today, like I went to the gym in the morning. And I came home. It was like 11:30. It was like no, it was 11:50. I came home. Ash was still in bed, and then I was like, Did you walk the dogs? Did you feed them? She was like, nope. And instead of me being like, well, what the fuck are we doing here today? This is your job today. I went, all right. I'm gonna go use the bathroom, and don't freak out. And then like in my head, I'm like, Jay, don't say anything. Don't be condescending. Don't say anything smart ass. Don't, let her be. Let her be. And I notice with her, if I'm silent, that's like the equivalent of yelling. I don't have to say anything. I go to the bathroom. She knocks on the door. She's like, "I'm gonna go take him out right now." And I was like, "Babe, I'm not doing it to like I'm not being cold or anything like that. It's just I'm just gonna bite my tongue because we've all been there. I'm sure there's plenty of times throughout the week where I said I was gonna do something, and then she gets home and she's like, "You haven't done anything yet," and I'm like, "Oops." And she never really harps on me for it. So it's just, you got to pick your battles. And it's just like, what's the point of fighting over that? Nobody peed or shit in the house. That's good. So, You know, so it's just
Yeah.
like what it's why, and I think it's something like with being a parent where it's just like if I could be the dad that doesn't have to yell, and I know that's so hard. It's because they're gonna make you yell,
Mhm.
you know. But if I could somehow figure out a way that my silence is all that's needed, that's
Mm.
awesome.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please subscribe, like below, comment, let us know your thoughts, and continue to enjoy.
And I think that's something I'm learning from my dad, who my dad, like me, talk,
Mhm.
talk, 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 talk. But when he's mad, quiet.
Mhm.
And it's not a matter of like being quiet and not expressing yourself or just not, but it's just like sometimes yelling doesn't work. It gets the attention and it gets them to kind of course correct sometimes. And this is just a guy who doesn't have a kid yet talking shit.
Mhm.
Take take it with a grain of salt, father of two. Like but I think just looking at like how my mom was growing up, my
Mhm.
mom super loving, but boy was she fucking tough. And she yelled. Her thing was she never hit me because she just had to yell. And at certain points, I was like, "Can you just hit me? Could you hit me instead of yelling at me? Because like this little mental warfare that you're doing hurts way more than you just hitting me. Like I'd rather you just beat me at this point." And and of course, there's always gonna be time for yelling, and it's easy to talk that shit now. Until when this little motherfucker is driving me up the wall or doing something terrible in the house. But I'm really trying to not. I think it more so of me just talking in circles. I'm trying not to be so reactionary to things,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of my personality growing up and of how I dealt with things was being really reactional. I don't even know if reactional is a word. But reaction,
Reactionary.
yeah, being reactionary, right?
Mhm.
And in those times I'm reactionary, most of the time after it's done, I'm like, fuck, I did that all wrong.
Mhm.
I shouldn't have reacted like that. I shouldn't have said what I said. And even if it's not something that I said like that was harsh or anything like that, just like the tone or just like raising your voice. Like I never raise my voice at Ash
Mhm.
because I just know like that's not how it's not beneficial for her. It's gonna make her if I yell at her, she's gonna shut down. That doesn't create good dialogue. That doesn't create change and whatever it's bothering me or what's bothering her.
Mhm.
So it's just like you can't just react to everything.
So I think that's a solid point in terms of the entire thing, because you were talking about like the responsibility and the fear of the
Mhm.
responsibility of being a father, and now you're talking about reaction. And to me, they're intertwined because I always speak about reacting versus responding, right? And
Yeah.
responding is responsibility, is your ability to respond, right? The responsibility, that's what that is, as opposed to thinking the view of responsibility is like you have to do this and this and this. Is more so the idea of responsibility is that when these situations arise, you choose how you're going to respond in those moments, and that's what kind of gives the direction of your life. And it's interesting you talking about the yelling, because it really has a lot to do where you are and what mental space you are in your life, right? And you're talking about you being in this like calm space right now, right? And this clarity that you're seeing in this calm space, and that's dude, I love that. It's beautiful. um i I can share this, like my kids when they were younger, toddlers, and like maybe up to like I want to say 5 years old. I didn't yell. I didn't really yell at them at all. Like
Yeah.
Paula used to freak out because of how calm I used to be. I was very um, and that's the key factor, is I was understanding. I had so much empathy for my kids in the sense of like, this is their first experience of this. situation, right? Let's
Yeah.
say, trying to pour their first glass of water and they spill it all over the table and freak out. Like that idea is like, this is the first time you're ever experiencing gravity in this way. Don't know how to handle it at all, right? So like that level of empathy in that moment, because I had this one experience when I was, I think I was 14. I was in DR. I would spend the summers in DR, and I was in DR with it was like my cousin's baby. He was, I want to say he was like 3 years old. But I don't know if you've ever seen kids that are like, their verbiage, their expressions, it seems like an old person.
Old
Like,
man. Yeah.
yeah. So this kid, he always like, always snap back, it says stuff to you, yells, but it's like you forget as a child because he's responding in this way, articulating. And I'm 14 years old, and I used to love spending time with this kid. Like he would pass out on me, I'd be sweating balls. It's DR, and he's sleeping on me. I wouldn't want to move, but he used to piss me off so much because of that. And one day, when it all made sense to me, he grabs the hose. It was just he and I in the house, and he grabs the hose. He's like, grandma needs the plants watered. I'm like, don't do that. You're not supposed to do that. And he's like, no, I do this every day, grandma. And again, like, think about a Dominican kid speaking like in that super grown Dominican kind of flow, all that. So he's responding to me in that way. And I'm like, yo, whatever, fuck it. He grabs the hose, he starts watering the plants, and it's like, okay, he's handling it. And then at one moment, I don't know what happened, like the hose like spluttered out a little bit. So he turns and looks at it, and it starts splashing him in the face, right? And he's like, whoa, whoa, and he's just holding it there, screaming, freaking out. And all you have to do is like turn it away. And I just watched this for a moment, not like a dickhead move, but it was just like a realization of like, he doesn't know how to handle the situation.
Yeah.
He's a 3-year-old. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Like that just like shifted my perspective. Like it was a paradigm shift for me where it put me into that space of like, wow, like the simple solutions of things have come from our experiences, have come from trials and tribulations and adjustments and so on and so forth. But when it's our first time with something, you can't judge our response. Like, So I always had, like with my kids when they were young, I had that mindset. And then as they got older, my expectations obviously start to rise,
Yes.
right? And this is the part where that reactive versus responsive thing is like almost to that point. It's like all the work I had done on myself to that point was I was handling it well, right? And then with my daughter was a little ball of anger when she was little, which for those of you who don't know, because you see me so chill, I'm very angry. I've always been.
That's why we relate.
I've learned to transmute my anger, because that's a whole nother story about anger and how I perceive anger. Anger is a powerful emotion that, when utilized correctly, can be amazing. Awesome. Now my daughter was a little ball of anger. She would just throw these tantrums, like this ferociousness from this tiny little person, right? And at this point, I have done all this work to manage my anger and be able to transmute my anger. And this is smacking me back in the face. Like all this anger that I dealt with is back, but in another person. So now I have to teach this other person how to manage this anger, right? So that was, again, new like level up for me. Now I have to learn how to manage this outside of myself. And this was like around 2020, right? I was stuck at home with the kids 24/7. My wife was still working, and I would be on the verge of just breaking. Like I'll be like, I'll have to hide in the closet and lock the door and like, take a moment to myself, because I was like, I'll be trembling. Like, then on the flip side, my son never had any like rage, anger. he was so chill, but he was the other version of me, which is, super daydreamy and like, the awareness was just like not there because he's in his own world. And that would be super frustrating because it's like, dude, like, what are you doing? Wake up. Like, just give you an example. Just yesterday, I see his a pajama shirt that he has that was my childhood shirt that I saved.
Yeah.
And he's used it basically all his life. So this shirt, it's still in pretty good condition. Like the colors are faded and stuff like that. It was a
Yeah.
Mighty Duck jersey, by the way.
Sweet.
So the other day I saw it had a little hole here, and I saw him like, plucking away at it, and I was like, Logan, what are you doing? Like, you're not being aware. You're gonna end up. Then yesterday, he comes out his room. The hole is like this big. I'm like, what happened? He's like, I don't know. I didn't notice. And that's frustrating, right? We talked about the last episode, that awareness, right? And that factor. And again, the things, I've said this before, the things that you think that you've gotten past and overcome in your life about yourself, right? These things that you might have negative feelings towards. And when I say negative is like, I hate this about myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then those things, and you're like, oh, I've transcended them. No, you haven't transcended until you accepted it. That's the reality. That's what, being a parent taught me. When you've accepted it as it's not a problem, it just is, that's when you've transcended it. But when you're by yourself, you get to live a life where you're like, yeah, I've transcended this, until you have your little mini you being you, exactly you, and you're like, why I already fixed this? Why are you doing this? And that's super frustrating. So it brings up all like those old emotions. It stirs a pot in you again. And now you realize that you're back into that reenactment, right? You said reactionary. Reacting is you are reenacting a past behavior, right? You learned when this happens, I do this. That's a reenactment, right? So every time that I get poked on the side, I'm going to punch, let's say. Poked on the side, punch. Now I reenact that first experience of that's what I do. And it becomes my pattern. It becomes my existence. So responding is that idea to me. Is like when you decide to break that pattern of reenacting the past and be less reactionary and instead move into responsibility. You have the ability to respond in a new way, in an intentional way that's going to lead you towards what you truly are after. So to me, it's like, it is about exactly what you're talking about, Jay. It's moving into that space. And children help us move into that space.
Yeah.
Whether we want to or not.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And this is recorded. I'm excited. Talk to me in 6 years. See how excited I am when I'm like, Rancis, how the fuck did you do this? I'm gonna kill this little motherfucker. Jesus Christ, it's me. He just won't shut the fuck up. He's such a little smart ass. How do I deal with this? Yeah. No, I think that's what how you explained it. Yeah, that's spot on, because like when I talk to my parents about how my mom is now versus how she was before, how my dad was before, how he is now. It's a lot of that, and it's pretty much you hit the nail on the head of how they explained it. And it really does make you revisit yourself and learn to accept things, and being able to give your kids the guidance to navigate that, because we're all human. We're all experiencing things for the first time. And the only thing you can do is love them unconditionally, and just hope and try to do enough work as possible that they get it. Um like we said this before too, like when you hear your parents give you advice about how to deal with their kids, you're like, take it easy. And you're like, oh, take it easy? Yeah, yeah, take it easy. Do you remember how You almost fucking made me fear for my life when I dropped Kool-Aid on the rug that one time. Like, like,
That's you know, my dad, the stuff that my dad had said, he's like, no, no, don't yell at them. No, don't relax. It's like, Dad. So the anger thing comes from my dad, by the way.
yeah.
This is the man that I think I shared the story one day, just came home from work because we were watching TV, grabbed the TV overhead and slammed it in the middle of the living room. It's like, what?
And then half the time, I didn't do that, and I'm like, no, 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 you did. Like, no, that definitely happened. Uh,
Well, brother, I'm super happy for you and Ashley,
Thank
and
you, man. Thank
I
you. We
love that
appreciate
story.
that. Yeah, yeah. So that's where we're at. And on that note, I think we can end it here. Guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can find us anywhere where you can find podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Is Google Podcasts still a thing?
It's still there, yeah.
It's
Google
still there.
Podcasts. They're
Uh,
transitioning to YouTube Music.
oh, I keep forgetting that. YouTube
Hmm.
Music. Don't forget to visit VidaProject.com. We can find all our stuff and other important things from the coaches that one of the coaches that you see next to me.
Hmm.
Um, Thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.